This is Chapter 18, Fundamentals of Troubleshooting the Network. I want to talk first about a methodology for troubleshooting. Has a few steps. Step one is information gathering. In this step, you identify symptoms and problems. Uh, this description is important so that you can clearly establish these symptoms. An accurate description is not always easy to obtain from a user because a user does not necessarily understand root causes. Users will typically describe problems in vague terms and will not be able to establish any pattern behavior of the problem. But a series of simple questions will typically lead you in the direction of the problem. Some of these questions might include: is this the first time the problem has occurred? When did the problem first occur? Is anyone else in the department having the same problem? Has anyone added new hardware or software to the system? What was the last change to the system? Two would identify the affected areas of the network. When diagnosing a network problem, you must first determine the affected area or the scope of the problem. Is the problem limited to a single workstation? Is it limited to just several workstations? Is it an entire department? Is it a large section of the network? Is it the entire network? By determining the scope of the problem, you can start a list of probable equipment or software items to inspect. One of the most important items to assist you in troubleshooting a large network system is a detailed site plan that has all the major networking devices identified. 3. Determine if anything has changed. You may ask one or more of the following questions. What's happened recently that could have caused this problem? Was there a new software package or a hardware device installed recently? Was a new service started on a server? Was a new hardware device recently installed? Perhaps nothing has changed. If so, the problem may be due to some failure or corrupted file. 4. Establish the most probable cause. Troubleshooting requires a series of best guesses. Sometimes the solution to the problem is obvious, and other times the problem can be much more difficult to diagnose. Once the symptoms have been clearly established, you can conduct a search using keywords related to the symptoms. The search should produce a list of document, abstracts, or articles from which to choose. 5. Determine if escalation is necessary. You will not be able to solve every problem. At times, it will be necessary to escalate the problem to a supervisor or someone with more expertise. This is especially true for a network technician with limited experience. Never attempt to troubleshoot a network device or software package that you are not thoroughly familiar with. Also, never make configuration changes to any network device that you are not familiar with or when you do not have the authority to make those changes. 6. Create an action plan and a solution identifying potential effects. When you use the internet to conduct a search about probable cause, you will also receive information about possible solutions. You will need to think through the possible solutions to choose the one that is the most appropriate to the situation. This requires experience and broad knowledge of and familiarity with the network. Be sure to document your solution as you progress through the process of diagnosing and implementing possible solutions. Documenting your work as you progress cannot be emphasized enough. Do not trust your memory. Writing down the steps you take is like leaving a trail for you to follow next time and will save you time and effort in the future. 7. Implement and test the solution. This may sound fairly simplistic, but you need to test the fix you made. Test to make sure it actually fixed the problem. 8. Identify the results and the effects of the solution. You must realize the full ramification of the corrective action you're taking. Before you apply a possible solution, you need to know the extent of how it will affect the existing system. In other words, did the fix break something else or cause new problems? 9. Document the solution as well as the entire process. Most network troubleshooting scenarios start with an incident report. The incident report typically includes an area for the technician to write down the implemented fix for the problem. This documentation will serve as future reference. Documentation is an important part of network administration and should be completed thoroughly in a timely fashion. Documentation will save the company and personnel valuable time and money and should be considered by all technicians as a professional courtesy as well as a necessity. Talk about some Windows tools in this entire process. System Restore. Hopefully you're familiar with System Restore. The System Restore utility does what its name implies it does. It restores the operating system to a condition established at a previous time. The System Restore utility rolls back the registry, but does not change existing data files, email files, and other common file types. The System Restore utility does remove executable files, which means that programs that were installed after the rollback date may be inoperable. If you can only start the computer in safe mode, you can access System Restore through the control panel or from the Start menu. You can also use the command prompt to start System Restore by entering rstrui.exe. If you suspect the problem is caused by a driver, you can roll back the driver. The rollback driver option has been a part of Windows since XP. The rollback driver feature is available through the Properties dialog box of any hardware device installed on the computer. Another handy tool is system configuration. I believe we talked about this last week, possibly the week before. It can be accessed on the command line using msconfig.exe, even in Windows 8, which doesn't have an easy way to get to it. The system configuration tool has 3 broad options, more in Windows 8, and the Windows 7 has 5, I think. You can change the way it starts up on this using msconfig. There are several items that can help you ensure a long time between system failure and data loss. If the correct precautions are taken, a server or workstation even can perform for years without failure. These items are an uninterruptible power supply unit, or UPS. If you RAID the hard drives, you need some sort of backup system on a regular basis. A good antivirus program is always recommended, and keeping up to date with service packs and patches. Network infrastructure consists of cabling devices like hub switches and routers. One of the most commonly encountered infrastructure problems is a loose cable. The second most encountered network problem is forgotten or mistyped user passwords. So after all your training and education, you may be disappointed to find out that the most common networking problems consume about 90% of your time. So some of the top networking problems: cannot log into the network or the computer. That could be either a loose cable or a password problem. Loose or no connection, that's going to be a loose cable probably. Cannot access a share, again, same thing. Cannot print to network printer, again, could be either of those two things. Computer virus, well, you know what to do about a computer virus. Can't get an IP address, could start off with the same thing. Cannot connect to an application server, might be a password issue. Cannot access the internet, any of the following two. Any of those can be definitely more in-depth than just a loose cable or mistyped password, but you probably should start there since that is the most common things. And as always, remember to keep calm and document, document, document.